Okay, now for this next part of the project, what I want you to do is I want you to calculate what percentage of the total amount of time that has existed in our timeline, and we're going to go all the way back to the Big Bang Theory on our timeline. What percentage of the total amount of time has your event taken up in the timeline? All right. That's going to make a little bit more sense when we do it, but let me just go back. All right. Now, the first thing we need to know what is the total amount of time we're talking about. So the Big Bang is the initial event, okay, that created everything. All right. And so if we go to our link, it says, okay, the first event was 13.7 billion years ago. All right. So how do we figure that out? Well, I'm going to go to Excel, and this is total time. And I'm going to actually make that a tiny bit bigger because it's kind of small and you can't see it, I'm sure. Okay, so the total time. And we said it was 13.7 billion years. Now, what is that? Well, it's 13 and then 0.7 is actually billion. So there's actually, that would be 13, this would be 13,000. This is 13 million, and that's 13 billion. There's actually three zeros in 1,000, 6 zeros in a million, and 9 zeros in a billion. So it's 13.7 billion. All right, that's a long time. Now, the event that I actually worked with, let's go with origin of birds, because that's the one I just showed you. So we're going to use that one. All right, so let's go back, take a look, and let's go back to the and see what time did I come up with that. Now you are going to use a different time because each one of you is doing a different event in the history of life. All right, and according to this, birds actually appeared 150 million years ago. Well, that seems like a real long time. So what is that? 150 million. Well, 150. And million, remember, is 6 zeros, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right? And I'm actually going to format these guys, format the cells as a number, and I'm going to do it. I'm not going to put any decimal places in these guys, but I am going to use the commas because I find that makes it easier. Okay? And that gives you a sense of what we're dealing with. So 150 million years is a long time ago, and yet it's not that significant when you look at the total amount of time. So the first thing I want to calculate is the percent occupied, the percent of time that the birds have actually been around, the percent of the total amount of time the birds have been around. Well, how would you figure that out? Well, what percentage is 150 million years of 13.7 billion? All right, so you percent is always is over of. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to divide it by the total amount. And what I find out, now that's interesting, that didn't give me much. All right, and what happened there? Well, I think the reason that's doing that is because when I formatted the cells, I said I didn't want to see any decimals. Well, I actually do need to see decimals. Okay, so I'm going to have 2 decimals show up. I'm going to say, okay, boom. And actually, that's such a small number, I think I'm actually going to have to put in a few more decimals. So, oh, actually, what will happen is when I convert this into a percent, let's actually have some more decimals. So format cells, let's actually have a few more decimal places show up. There we go. So, even though 150 million years is a big amount of time, it's actually only 1.09% of the total amount of time. Now that's easy. Now here's the thing, and unfortunately I do not have this figure yet because you guys have to come up with this figure. What we are going to do is we need to calculate the total circumference of the room. I do not know what that is. Okay? I'm going to say it's roughly 80 feet, but I'm making that up. I don't know. All right? So we're going to actually have to take that measurement. All right? So this is the circumference in feet. Okay? I've measured it's 80 feet, and of course, what do I want to do? Well, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to convert that into inches. Circumference in inches. Now, right off the bat, I'm going to say if I was really doing the sciencey thing, I'd be doing this in meters, but unfortunately I don't have any long tape measures in meters, so we're just going to do it in feet and inches, even though that's non-sciencey. All right, so how do I figure out the circumference in inches? It's very easy. I got the number of feet, which is 80, multiply it by the number of inches in a foot, which is 12, boom, and there are 900, the room is 960 inches around. So the question is, from the present time, how far back is the origin of birds? Well, that's actually pretty easy to figure out. What you need to do is you're going to say, all right, well, in inches on our timeline, for the existence of birds, I need to multiply equals 960, which is the total amount of inches, times, and then I have to actually multiply it by the percent where birds have been around. So if the 960 inches, which is the circumference of room, represents the total amount of time in history, what is 1% of that going to be in inches? Well, we'll multiply that by 0.0109. Okay, 1.09% is actually, as a decimal, 0.0109. So let's see what that gives us. We're going to multiply 960 by that, and that gives us 10.4 inches. Okay, so the total amount on our timeline, the amount of area that's going to be represented by the appearance of birds is only 10.4 roughly 5 inches. All right, that's actually not a lot of space. All right, so that's what you guys are going to be doing. You're going to be able to use the formula I showed here if you like, but you cannot do it until we actually wind up with the actual correct measurement, the correct circumference of the room in feet, and that we're going to have to calculate in class.